Jussie Smollett is found guilty of staging a hate crime and now faces 15 years in prison. In this video, we're going to take a look at the conviction. We're going to see how the mainstream media did absolutely everything they possibly could to push the hoax. And stick with me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal precisely why the mainstream media is the real hoax. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Stevie, great to be with you. As always, I'm your daily fake news antidote. As each and every day, I provide patriotic analysis to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy, these insane, these turbulent times. So if you haven't done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. Before we begin, it's Christmas time, and you are definitely going to want to check out our amazing merch store for gifts for all the patriots in your life. We got the best designs in the world, like our latest Eagles Fly Alone t-shirts. It's absolutely awesome. I got mine on right now. We got some of the best Patriot gear where you can pick out something that spreads hope and supports my channel here at the same time. So make sure to click on that link below and get your Patriot merch today. These designs are punchy, they're fun, they're the perfect Christmas gift for all the Patriots in your life, but they're not going to stick around for long. They are flying off the shelves. So click on that link in the description below to both support me and spread Patriot hope. And let's make this the most patriotic Christmas ever. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. As I'm sure many of you have already heard by now, actor and supposed musician Jussie Smollett was indeed convicted on 5 counts of staging a hate hoax in Chicago nearly 3 years ago. Those 5 counts each entail a maximum sentence of 3 years in prison, or a total of 15 years. Now, if you're not familiar with the specifics, on January 29th, 2019, again, almost 3 years ago, Smollett alleged that he was physically attacked by 2 white men in downtown Chicago near the lower entrance of a Lowe's hotel. He claimed that the 2 men beat him, with one putting a rope tied in the shape of a noose around his neck, while the other poured bleach on him, yelling racist and homophobic slurs. And one of the attackers shouted that this is MAGA country, right? It makes you wonder. Downtown Chicago is MAGA country. That's why they keep voting for politicians like Lori Lightfoot. But regardless, and so the assault was reported and investigated as a racial and homophobic hate crime. And the media jumped all over it as if evidence of how racist the country had become since Trump was elected. Now, the day after the incident, police released surveillance images that did in fact show 2 silhouetted individuals walking down the same sidewalk where the attack occurred, and that they were wanted for questioning. But as the investigation continued, police began to grow suspicious. You see, they found out that the 2 silhouetted individuals were not white guys, but in fact 2 brothers from Nigeria. Moreover, they claimed that Smollett actually paid them $3,500 to stage the attack, and that they had in fact rehearsed it just a few days prior to the surveillance footage there. And that's when the whole hate hoax began to unravel for Smollett. Now, incredibly, he put on the best performance of his life, or worst performance, whatever the case may be, sticking to his story, convincing far-left activists disguised as journalists like Robin Roberts of his victimhood. Take, for example, this cringeworthy scene.
I still want to believe, with everything that has happened, that there's something called justice. Because if I stop believing that, then what's it all for? Yeah. Thank you, Jussie. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful, Jussie. Beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for exposing just how racist and bigoted Trump and his MAGA crowd really are. I mean, it seems rather obvious that the media didn't merely believe Smollett's hoax, they wanted to believe it. The media actually wanted the horror that he claimed happened to him to be true. And Smollett seems to have known that. He seems to have thought that staging such a hoax would forever ingratiate himself into the fawning arms of the ever-adoring mainstream media, who apparently have a collective fetish in stoking racial hatred in our nation. I mean, remember Nick Sandmann and the whole Covington Catholic school kids? The students wearing MAGA hats at the March for Life, a pro-life march in Washington, D.C. It was right around the same time as the Smollett thing. These events basically happened back to back from one another. You, of course, remember how the all too eager left-wing media outlets reported that these students, many of whom were wearing red MAGA hats, had callously surrounded an elderly Native American man minding his own business, beating on a ceremonial drum, and the students began mocking and ridiculing and harassing the poor old man in racially insensitive ways. The students were being accused of white patriarchy. One contributor of the New York Times said that they were a living embodiment of toxic masculinity, that anyone who had a problem with that ought to go F themselves. That's the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen. The students and their families, they were doxxed. They were harassed by leftists on social media. Twitter allowed a number of verified accounts to call for the death of the students. One in particular recommended, how did they put it? The school they attended should be burned and the students locked inside while it was burning. Now, of course, like Smollett, it was all a lie. It was all fabricated. One was a hoax fabricated by Smollett. The other was a hoax fabricated by the mainstream media. And there's little wonder why they've had to reduce themselves to these hate hoaxes. Studies conclusively show that overt racism has been on a steady decline over the last 40 years. The British scholar Matthew Goodwin has detailed this extensively. For example, the majority of people surveyed 40 years ago in interracial marriage were absolutely opposed to it. Today, 90% of people surveyed are all for it. 40 years ago, a majority didn't want to live next door to someone of a different ethnicity. Today, a supermajority has no problem with it. Study after study shows that we're actually becoming less racist, not more. And so the mainstream media, and as it turns out, D-list actors, have had to fabricate racially divisive narratives. And this is precisely where we get the whole notion of white privilege from. Scholars have shown that the notion of white privilege actually derives from this need to fabricate racist social conditions by far left media. But before we get into that, a huge thank you to everyone for your kind words about our new Change America initiative. Yesterday was a great display of patriots coming together to stand for truth, and I could not be more proud. Change America was started as a way for everyday patriots to get involved in fighting for freedom with their spare change, supporting candidates, organizations, audits, and more. And as a thank you, my team and I are so thrilled to announce a special Turley Talks Live virtual Christmas party on Monday, December 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're inviting some special guests, giving away gifts, sharing some special Christmas stories, and more. And so I hope to see you there. So make sure to click on that link below. Sign up for Change America today and join me December 20th. I can't wait to see you there. All right, I'm very appreciative of a piece by the scholar Eli Steele, who traces the history of supposed white privilege. It's actually a very fascinating history. He roots the origins of the term to both the election of Barack Obama and the whole Trayvon Martin saga. It's a very interesting piece. And what Steele argues here is that the election of Barack Obama back in 2008 was actually very threatening to cultural Marxists, ironically, of course. And it was so threatening because the election of Obama threatened to overturn their narrative that America was irredeemably racist, right? They were actually threatened by this notion that we can all now move on from our supposed racist past and the like because we voted for the first black president. And so what advocates of cultural Marxism had to do is they had to go about proving each and every day that America was still a radically racist nation. And so Eli Steele points to the shooting death of Trayvon Martin back in 2012 as an example of this deliberate attempt, particularly by the mainstream media, to cast the shooting in thoroughly racial terms. So if you recall, Martin was a black kid shot and killed by George Zimmerman. Zimmerman was himself part white and part Peruvian. Now, of course, in the normal course of identity politics, Zimmerman would be checking off the Hispanic box when applying for college, for instance, as far as the media is concerned, right? But this got turned on its head when Zimmerman became the oppressor, when he became the shooter. And so in an attempt, a deliberate attempt by the corporatist globalist media to push a cultural Marxist grievance politics paradigm, they recast Zimmerman as a white Hispanic. And that term was used over and over and over again for him. They actually made up the term. He's a white Hispanic. It was a clear case of pushing a white on black crime narrative by the mainstream Marxist media. So the point here is that the left is under extreme pressure to try to find examples of racism everywhere they can and even invent them, like with Zimmerman or with the Covington High School students at the March for Life in D.C. They have to find or invent as much racism as they can in order to justify the continuation of their cultural Marxist grievance politics. And so when all is said and done, the hate hoax perpetrated by Jussie Smollett is merely a microcosm of the real macrocosmic hate hoax that's being perpetrated by the cultural Marxists in our media every single day. This is why leftists like Robin Roberts didn't merely believe Smollett, she wanted to believe him. Now, the good news is that the mainstream media's credibility, whatever semblance of credibility they have left, is eroding more and more every single day. Perhaps the lasting legacy from Smollett's conviction will be how it helped more and more people realize that woke leftists in the mainstream media are the real hoax. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on how bumbling Biden is actually trying to get rid of Cackle's Kamala Harris. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.